Everybody, glad to be with you here today to talk about how to build a highly functional culture through effective teamwork and performance management. One of the main things we're going to focus on today, as you see on your slide, is how to manage individual and team performance effectively and the role each of those has in the success of your company and its culture. So that's the lens we're going to look through today. One of the reasons I put this webinar together is when I work in organizations and help them with their cultures, two areas are often really impacting how their cultures are working. And this could be whether they're working well or they're not working as well, is how the teams are working together, the team members are working together on their individual teams, and then how team-to-team relationships are going as well. And then also how individual performance is managed. And I find that those are two really big areas that impact culture, how it evolves and develops. One of the things we know about culture is it tends to change and evolve as people learn, make decisions, and grow together as employees. So what's happening with your people in an organization is absolutely going to impact your culture for better or worse. And so since we'd like it to impact it for the better, I believe in being intentional about how our culture evolves. We want it to evolve in a way that really supports our organization's mission, our organization's strategic goals and objectives, and why we actually exist as a company. This is the overview of today's webinar. As you see, we have a robust agenda, 6 different objectives. We're going to talk about how to align performance management with your organizational goals, and the key word in there is alignment. We'll also talk about how to build an effective performance management framework, how to determine what performance goals should be once you have your framework. And then we'll talk about how to build organizational trust. If we think about it, and I'll get into this in more detail when we get to that section, when we think about it, we really can't do much in organizations with people that works well unless there's a basic level of trust. And part of that has to do with the fact that if people don't feel reasonably safe to talk to each other, they are not going to share important information, they're not going to debate important topics, all of which need to be in place in order for an organization to function well. We'll also talk about how to manage team functioning effectively, and then finally how to evaluate employee performance. We're not going to get into performance reviews here per se, but we'll talk about evaluation from a more global perspective. How do you on a day-to-day basis help employees perform more effectively? We'll start here with aligning performance with organizational goals. We'll talk about alignment and engagement. So here's one definition of alignment. A highly aligned organization acts consistently and effectively in the pursuit of agreed common goals. As you see at the bottom of your slide, that comes from a book called Predictable Success by Les McEwen. He also wrote another book called The Synergist. I highly recommend both of them. They're great books on business growth and development. So alignment here is we're looking at an organization that understands why it's successful and that acts in a consistent way in the pursuit of its agreed upon common goals. And so that's a way to think about alignment. We actually have a pictorial representation here on our next slide, and this also comes from Predictable Success by Les McEwen. If you look at the bottom of that triangle, that pyramid, we see mission. What's your organizational mission? That's really the basis of everything, because it's the reason, or at least one of the reasons, that you exist as an organization. What's your mission? And then based on the mission that you have, you start to set goals. And based on those goals, you have some strategies that you put in place to meet the goals. We'll see some people will reverse strategies and goals. We'll have mission, strategies, and goals on top. Do whatever works for your organization. For today's purposes, I'm just going to go with this one. So we have our mission. We have the goals that will help us achieve the mission. We have the strategies that are going to help us achieve the goals. We have the tactics that are going to help us achieve our strategies. And then finally at the top there, we have the actions, the daily actions that leaders and employees take to implement tactics, which again, if we go back down, support the strategies, which support reaching the goals, which then goes back to why you exist at all, your mission. So when we think about alignment, that's one way to think about it. And I like how concrete this is. It's not always that concrete in practice, but I like how concrete this representation is of it, because it helps us start to think about, are our goals aligned with our mission, or do we have some goals out in left field? Okay, our goals are aligned. Well, do we have strategies in place to help us actually reach those goals or not? And if we don't, we should get some in place. let's say we have some great strategies, but maybe our tactics aren't aligned with our strategies, or people are taking daily actions that seemingly have nothing to do with tactics and strategies. For some of you, this might be familiar. You might be thinking, yeah, I'm doing a lot of things that seem to have nothing to do with the mission of my organization. Or maybe you work in a very aligned organization. The point is to start thinking about how alignment actually functionally works.